Hi there, good evening, everyone. It's so wonderful to see so many familiar and new faces tonight. Today we are delighted to welcome local poet Kyd Kane, who will be more formally introduced by the Women's Studies intern Ash Rodriguez in just a few moments. Until then, I'll just say that after spending some time with Kyd yesterday afternoon, I'm really excited to witness how Kyd will bring their high energy and creative spirit to the shared space this evening. Tonight's event is a collaborative effort between the Contemporary Writers Series and the Jane Hibbert Edema Women's Studies Center. We would like to welcome you. The Contemporary Writers Series was generously started by Linda Nemec Foster and her husband Tony. And it's fitting to mention, given tonight's guest, that Nemec Foster was the first Grand Rapids Poet Laureate, serving in the position from 2003 to 2005. The Contemporary Writers Series, now in its 25th season, invites authors to Aquinas campus to inspire students through writing workshops, to connect creatives, and to learn from authors' literary and creative achievements. The Jane Hibbert Edema Women's Studies Center serves as a community resource for women's and gender issues, promoting awareness of these issues through its programming and curriculum, and empowering students and community members to become advocates for gender equality and social justice. The center is funded by a generous endowment from Mary Carolyn Twink Frey and James McKay. So tonight, the event will go as follows. Kyd will share their poetry this evening for about an hour or so, and then we'll do a short Q&A period following that. There will be some vegan desserts next door in the Laureate room, which is outside of the ballroom. The restrooms are also right outside the ballroom here. I'd like to take this moment to ask you all to please silence your devices if you haven't already done so. And also ask that you refrain from photos or videos during Kyd's performance. Photos are okay. No video, photos okay, no videos. Okay, thank you. And thanks very much for that. So now, Ash Rodriguez, if you would like to introduce our guest.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Ashley, as Jen has mentioned. I'm a student and an intern here at the Jane Hibbert Edema Women's Studies Center. And tonight I have the honor of introducing you to tonight's speaker, slam poet and Grand Rapids Poet Laureate, Erica Kyd Kane Thompson. Kyd Kane wears many hats that are a great contribution to our society. Not only are they a poet, but are self-taught, multidisciplined visual artist, arts educator, and above else, an authentic beacon of peace and love. Kyd is native to Grand Rapids and uses her poetry to highlight systemic problems in our community and to inspire change. In 2017, Kyd became the first poet to be named an Art Prize finalist with their very first submission, Broken Hunger. In this piece, Kyd brings a voice to their own experiences with food and observation of food systems and the food epidemic. Through their talent, Kyd has used their voice for social justice and change. As stated previously, in the year 2021, Kyd again accomplished becoming an ambassador of poetry for our very own community, Grand Rapids. Kyd uses this role and all others to be their authentic and real self. We value and appreciate Kyd because they stay real and have a gift of expression and connecting with others and their human experiences. Again, as like Jen stated before, we ask and remind you all to please turn off your phones and put away them and set them aside. Also, following Kyd's presentation, again, there will be snacks in the room beside, and we'll have vegan treats. So, on behalf of Aquinas College, we would like to welcome an individual who is empowering and is of great contribution for positive social change in our world, Kyd Kane.
We're super excited to be here, and I met a lot of you before this all started, but I have two clipboards here, and we're going to write a community poem together. And so as it goes around to you, add a few lines or a few words, and then I'll share them at some point throughout this performance as they come back up to me. So because there's so many people here, I'll split it in two. and I'll just start with you. Oh, I'll read it first. For this side, the first two lines, the self-love is a fruitful odyssey, roam the home of your own heart. You'll be adding to that poem as a pencil for you. And then, Jen, you get to start this one. And this one is, I'll seek light in the light that has chosen me. I'll speak life into the light. That's how it's supposed to be. And you get to start that. Thank you. Well, because I haven't met most of y'all, customary to me whenever I'm on a stage, in order for me to feel a little more comfortable and at home, I like to do this thing. And there's a couple people that might know. But when I say peace and love, if you can just shout back love and peace, so we can just like shift the frequency in the room for me to be able to be vulnerable here as I share my poetry with y'all. So when I say peace and love, you say
Love and peace.
Peace and love.
Love and peace.
Peace and love.
Love and peace.
Peace and love.
Love and peace.
I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that. I am a poet first. I started writing poetry as a kid as a means to rewrite my life. I didn't have the ideal life. I wanted to experience something a little bit different than I ever experienced. And because I couldn't, I found words, and through the love of words, I was able to manifest this life that I stand before you here today to share. And I wasn't gonna share this poem, but I think it's so important for me to kind of like start it off this way so you can kind of understand why creativity and poetry and self-expression is so important to me. Then I'll bop over there to grab my actual set list, but this feels good right now, so I'll honor that. I'll also ground myself just for a moment and remove these shoes. Don't mind me. I wrote classics. I wrote classics in classrooms when I was 10 years old. I got notebooks on notebooks of untold gold, a plethora of pages and writing utensils witnessed my life unfold. I chicken scratched my soul while eating ramen noodles and drinking ginger sodas. Back then, I knew my soul was older, no lie. I knew that I was timeless. I was not born, I will not die. I transcend the physical, multi-dimensional. When Kyd was just a kid, she was ahead of her time. Words ahead of the line, thinking of poems at the back of the line, rewriting my life in my mind. So I had a mom's like Claire Huxtable and a pops like Uncle Phil, living a life much more comfortable, less past due bills and more money to fill banks, less noodles and more steaks, less agitation and more vacation. I literally vacated the physical to live a life more traditional. These words raised me. These words saved me. These words gave me hugs when people were too busy to hug me, gave me love when people were too busy to love me. See, these words have been my best friend. From writing stories to reading dictionaries in my grandmother's den, we've been click type. So each and every day of my life, every day that I write, I use this creativity to remind me of wholeness. Using each word to fill the holes within me, using each word to fill, using each word to feel real feelings feel the realest when I use these words. I use this creativity to calm my nerves and hop onto the stages like this one and learn about them new nerves, them something's brewing in my stomach nerves, knees knocking nerves, almost slurred my words, nerves. Then I use this confidence fueled by my passion for creativity to not forget these words, and the words that I almost slurred to seem to calm my nerves, and I take flight. Yeah. I use this creativity to fly, to soar, carrier pigeon flow. Y'all know I use these words to send a message. Use this creativity to speak the truth. Use these words to open doors. It's a blessing. I'll use these creativity to teach life lessons. I use this creativity to spread love, to spread peace, peace and love.
Love and peace.
Y'all, peace and love.
Love and peace.
I use this creativity to spread love, to spread peace from the depth of my soul into all the souls I can reach. I use this creativity to shine like the moon and the sun gave birth to me. I use these words to enlighten. I try to use these words in poems to make my life brighter, to make this life make sense, to give the world my 2 cents. I use this creativity to feed my family. Use these words to pay my rent, to strengthen bonds and improve friendships. See, I use this creativity to tighten my network. Jen, that's why I'm here. Said these words with so much conviction, my neck hurts. And if the words and my thoughts ever become things, I'll use this creativity to manifest a higher network. See, I use these words when my soul hurts. Use this creativity to soul search. I found out that passion and purpose were my motives, so I owe this poem to words creativity, because without them, I would not be alive. I use them both to survive. Thank you. So here's some people snapping. That's a real good thing. We want to go ahead and do that throughout the night. You can also do what I like to do, which is like little silent raise of the roof. I know you might typically have people just here reading poems, but I'm here to kind of like really be present here, you know? And I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna be myself, and I'm gonna be forgetting my lines, and that's okay, you know what I'm saying? I was actually put on this earth to be emotional for my community. And so in that emotion, I honor the fact that humans aren't perfect. So I won't be perfect here tonight, but I will be honest. Does anybody know why we snap when we hear poetry? Anybody know? No? Okay, so back in the day when they started saying poetry and they were saying it real soft and slow, a lot different than how we do tonight, they would be in coffee shops. And because they were holding coffee or tea, they could not clap. So then it gave them, with that free hand, the ability to snap. So we just do some snapping. If here's some things that resonate with you tonight, let's snap a little bit. You know, I'm also a poet that's, you know, got my start doing nightlife poetry. And so you can do some like, you know, you want to give an example?
Woo!
Woo! You know what I'm saying? Feel free to do that. I do want to just say thank you to Aquinas for having me here. The Contemporary Writer Series and the Women's Studies Center. So I'm so grateful to be here and to be one of the many contemporary writers that you've invited. When you honor the writer, you honor the community. When you honor the community, you honor the heart. When you honor the heart, you honor the heartbeat. When you honor the heart's beat, you honor the vibration. When you honor the vibration, you honor the frequency. And when you honor the frequency, you honor the spirit of God that exists in all of us. This poem is called Sanctuary. My body is a sanctuary, a sacred place where God resides inside, heart beats a song of praise. Each hymn, a testament to this temple, an acknowledgement of my glory. The doors of this church are open. May the truth of my story aid in healing the sinners and the saints. Each morning, I stand before reflective glass, stained with my shrine's beauty to cleanse hand and mouth. Thou shalt touch many with the words flowing from these lips, Selah. See me, saying less if it isn't true, intention set to be the bearer of delicious fruit, faithful, patient, kind, good, gentle, aware, made in the image of the Most High, soul so holy in holy genes. I'll be me by any means, clean slates for the sake of the God in me. I'll speak life to love and life to peace. Brought here to craft a masterpiece with these words from this beautiful bold soul. This here be that untold gold. Snap your fingers if you feel it in your soul. Breathe. Snap your fingers if you feel it in your soul. Breathe. Tap your toes, clap your hands to the beat of God's drum. Breathe. Breathe. Into the sanctuary. My God, my body is a sanctuary, a sacred place where God resides inside. Heart beats a song of praise. This sacred place where God resides is holy just because there's God in the temple that is me, that is we, that is us. Thank you. So, outside of being a poet, I am also a beacon of peace and love, as Ash said. The reason why it's so important for me to identify that is because the closest way to bliss is finding peace in the inside. And when I learned how to find peace within, I was able to quiet the chaos and the chatter of the world. And when you quiet the chaos and the chatter of the world, you get comfortable with this heartbeat. And since we've been in pandemic, I haven't been able to like share space and build community like I love to so much. But what I found in that time is that community starts in the heart. And when you honor yourself, when you love your own heart, when you're tapped into you, you're able to be present enough to like find the circles of community that are closest to you. Who are you at home? Do you know yourself? Do you know your family? Are you connected enough to be able to identify if there's something wrong, if there's something wrong with them, or if there's something wrong with you? And if you can't, then how functional are you in community? What are you there for? Just to say you're there? Or are you there to actually be a vessel of change? And so it's so important for me to be a beacon of peace. So when I say peace and love, you say,
Love and peace.
for years, I've grown rock, uncertain of my own power, of my own body, unaware that I am as much sun as I am flower, that I am as much mountain as I am meadow, that I am as much forest as I am ocean. So grateful to know I am as fruitful and vast as this rock I roam on this journey home to me. It's so rewarding to see all that I am and all that I can be, to know that I am here, to warm the planet and bring light with the sun, to bloom and bring beauty with the flowers, to be and bring peace with the meadow, to stand my ground and reach great heights with the mountains, to bring mystery and safety with the forest, to rage and flow with the ocean. Today, I roam this rock, relishing in my resilience and strength, certain of my power, happy to be woman, to be mother, to be earth, to be me. I love being outside. I used to be scared of the outdoors. I grew up in 49507. It's a neighborhood of Grand Rapids. It's the most disinvested. It's the most kind of left behind, lacking resources. But what confining a community of people to a neighborhood does is it limits their access to nature, limits their ability to roam that rock that I just spoke of. And so it's taken me many, many years to do the less than normal thing and find myself in the woods, find myself by the water, find myself roaming when I used to be afraid of dirt and grass. And, you know, when you have a group of people that are intensely and immensely marginalized and just lacking so much access, and when there's been intentional terror, our families have done the best to keep us safe, to keep us guarded, to keep us close to home. And so I'm here to say, I'm here to roam, and I'm ready for whoever has a problem with that. But the hardest time of year for me to find myself outside was winter. I found myself cursing it every year. Every year. Can anybody relate to that? Can you relate to that? Yeah, I find myself cursing it on the way to my car, on the way to work. Every day I go out, oh, let's go right here. And then I said, wow, what type of energy am I taking with me every time I'm so upset at winter? I have this love for spring and summer and fall, and when it comes to winter, I'm just grumpy and blue. So a few years ago, I set out to find myself outside, to find myself chilling in the snow. You know what I'm saying? Just really, really being present and finding a way to activate the inner parts of my body so that I can be warm, so that I can actually tap into the sun that's still there, so that I can actually maybe be a little bit more patient in community with this community that starts right here in the heart. And then the next community that starts with my family, my sister's here, hi, so happy to see you. But with this community that starts right here in the heart, I had to find a way to not be upset at something. Because if I can so quickly be upset by the chill of winter, then what else takes me so fast? So I started going outside and doing the things that I would normally do in the summer. So I took my beach chair and I put it in a snowbank. And I took my beet juice that I juiced with some organic beets that I got from the Fulton Street Farmers Market. And I sipped some juice and read some books and wrote some poems. And my internal energy activated. And I became alive. And I forgot it was cold. And I found a relationship with snow that I never thought I would. Have you ever walked in inches and in inches of shimmering, crunchy snow on a sunny day? Ever been soothed by the sound of the thinnest ice shattering beneath your feet as each step reminds you of your power, along with the sun cascading across your pretty face. Ever been soothed by the sound of the thinnest ice shattering beneath your feet as each step reminds you of your power, along with the sun cascading across your pretty face, your solar plexus, igniting to warm you from the inside like the sight of your lovely smile after not seeing them in weeks. Cheeks blush as anxiety drips from your pores beneath your vintage parka as you walk through your favorite park, a stream of you from nape of neck to small of back of body of water, seemingly unthawing on a day colder than water bears, them winter days filled with love and care. The heart thawing kind, left foot forward, right foot on penguin, left foot forward, right foot on penguin, crunch, 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 the crunch of snow beneath the feet to tame the racing mind, to calm the angst, to ease the pain. It works every time. I said the crunch of snow beneath the feet to tame the racing mind, to calm the angst, to ease the pain. It works every time. To be me is to be wintertime, chilling on the brink of emotion, emotion that changes as often as the temperature, feet in hand frozen, trying to expel the melting ice dripping from my heart. To be me is to be abstract art. No rhyme or reason, an expression of feelings, an expression of colors, an expression of personal truth. Easily misunderstood, paint splattered on walls in the hood, easily misunderstood, paint splattered on walls in the hood. To be me is to be water, blue or flowing, salty and fresh, still standing. When you feel feelings and colors blue, remember, waterfalls aren't worth chasing, but they do, like you, deserve to be acknowledged, to be admired, to be loved, to be felt. Tips of pens can capture the stillness of water, but without words, one cannot capture the motion. See, oceans are more like humans than we think. Both bodies of water that we cannot drink. Waves must be the emotions of the sea. Must be the water that is me, that is we. These feelings must be the tide. And as the moon and the sun starts tugging and pulling and pulling and tugging into the fluid within has so much motion, water falls from eyes. I say, don't go chasing the tears. Allow them to fall. Allow them to flow. Tears, salty ocean, salt fears are only a figment of the mind. Allow them to flow freely with the tears. When you feel feelings, and colors blue, remember that waterfalls aren't worth chasing, but they do, like you, deserve to be acknowledged, to be admired, to be loved. So, thank you. Clapping is okay. Clapping is encouraged. So I found myself outside, not only in love with summer, winter, spring, fall, but in love with everything. Being able to find myself in everything I've ever seen. Like, wow. I didn't know I was so much like a cloud. Crying every day. Not every day, but when I'm full enough to pour, I did. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know I was like a tree, grounded, growing, bare in the wintertime, but I am. I had no idea that I was like you, scared in rooms full of people. So many of us are anxious and scared in rooms full of people. And I used to be scared in rooms full of people until I realized that I was in rooms full of people that I was all scared of rooms full of people. And then things changed. And I'm like, we're all here, we're connected, and we're feeling these things that we don't know that we're feeling. And that's the importance of writing. That's the importance of expression. It shows us how connected we are. It shows us how so many of our experiences intersect. And when we take the opportunity to be vulnerable, when we take space and time to share our stories, we open up portals for other people to do the same. So thank you for being here to tap into this portal that is Kyd Kane. And I hope that also you're able to find the poet in you. I do see those clipboards going around, so thank you so much for engaging in that. I wasn't gonna do this poem either, but since that's going around, I think I want to do it. I said 365, I write rhymes. 365, I craft lines. It could be on page or in line, words used to capture moments of time. Click. A sucker for words, a poetry nerd. All in my city, there's poetry read, poetry written, and poetry heard. It's gonna be a poetic herd, a creative plot. Language uplifted like birds. Poets be writing the fly, performing the soul. We do it all from our core, and I kid you not. Poetry might invade your block, whether they like it or not. Billboards and murals, screens and marquees. You might see it painted on streets. I'm so grateful for words. We gonna be some poetic nerds. All in my city, poetry read, poetry written, and poetry heard. Hear it, write it, read it, choose whatever you do today. Since you have that clipboard, I hope you find the poet. Thank you. So, as a poet laureate of City of Grand Rapids, I got to be the poet laureate in the wildest time in history, pandemic. And so, you know, I'm so used to, and this is probably my first time being on stage alone with this many people in the room. I think I'm having some technical difficulties. This is probably my first time being alone on stage with this many people in a room since we've been in pandemic, but I have been doing outdoor performances. And of course, I'm never alone when the sun's there. And so, you know what I'm saying? I appreciate you for bringing the sun's energy here today to charge me up, to make me feel warm while I'm here on the stage, sharing and expressing the truth of my experience, the honesty of my heart. I can't wait to see what those poems that we're coming up with. I'll also speak to just a project that I'm doing as the poet laureate. Last year, Snap if you saw these, I did a project called Elevated Love Language, where I was able to use 8 billboards throughout the city to put poetic love language during the month of February. I had to find a way to engage community with poetry without us being able to gather, and that was the best thing I can come up with, and it went really beautiful. I also got the ability to activate screens and marquees along with the billboards from other poetic peers, also students that I teach. I am the lead teacher with the Diatribe Inc., and we are an arts and culture nonprofit. And we go into schools and we teach poetry-centered programming. And what that allows us to do is teach students the importance of expression and give them the space and place to advocate for themselves, to say, this is what I need, this is what I want, this is what I deserve, this is what I desire. And that's something that it took me a long time to get to, but I got to it through this art form of poetry, through being a writer. So thanks again to the Contemporary Writer Series. But I'll say all of that to say that this year's project is called the Poetry Postcard Project. And I'm doing something similar to what I'm doing here. It's just getting pens, pencils, crayons, and markers into the hands of the community for them to start expressing themselves in ways that they maybe didn't consider before. So the Poetic Postcard Project also engages all 8 library branches, Grand Rapids Public Libraries. So you can go to each branch, pick up this postcard, take it home, write some poetry, drop it back off, and then it'll be a part of the digital exhibition and also a traveling exhibition that will go from library branch to library branch. And what I'm hoping to do with this project is to have people at home reading poetry with their partners, reading poetry with their families, sitting at the dinner table and saying, this is how I feel. Can you imagine the ring of change when your child or your partner knows that you feel comfortable enough to say what you feel? You know, the lines of communication that's able to be ignited when you just take an opportunity to write something down. And so all of you will leave here as contemporary writers, all of you will leave here as poets today because we'll be writing. And I really, really hope that you find a way to engage with the project. This poem is called Let Them Burn. Tomorrow, I'll burn the blues along with the bridges folks be using only when convenient. Stores pain and body along with that. Grateful for the warmth I get from both. Light them, let them burn. Light them, let them burn. Light them, let them burn with that. Pain, blues, bridges, let them burn, let them burn, let them burn that pain, blues, bridges, let them burn tomorrow. While the blues and bridges are burning with the fat and the pain, I'll find linings that are silver amid half full glasses of tears that I won't even consider using to stop the blue. Can you guys hear me? Okay, cool. Let them burn, let them burn, let them burn fat, pain, blues, bridges, let them burn. Tomorrow, while the blues and bridges burn with the fat and the pain, I'll find linings that are silver amid half full glasses of tears that I won't even consider using to stop the blaze. Let them burn, light them, let them burn, light them, let them burn. Thank you to the universe for the warmth. Let them burn. You've been cold, kid, for so long. Let them burn. You've been cold for so long. Stay warm by any means. The world is colder than everything, even you. I cannot lie. Few Julys ago, blue. Berries and cherries couldn't sweeten the view. Few are able to stand in their truth. Much too scared of the dirt that's surrounding the roots. I know I can't sing y'all, but this is what you get. I cannot lie. July was blue. Berries and cherries couldn't sweeten the view. Few are able to stand in their truth. Much too scared of the dirt that's surrounding the roots. Some mornings, my anxiety whispers me a nightmare. I woke up and wanted to give up, but decided to take a bath instead. Hoped to wash away the lonely, soak away the grief, to rinse away the me. Heartbeat big, insisting that I do the work. My soul hurt to tear jerk from window. Could hear the wind singing the song of blue hearts. See the sky dancing to the beat of blue souls. The sun smirked barely at the beauty that comes with pain, right along with me as I realized I was only seeing myself in the sky. Why, oh why did the gravity have to steal my fly? Deep breath and closed eyes found comfort in peace and love. Love.
Love and peace.
Okay. Why did gravity have to steal my fly? Deep breath, closed eyes, found comfort and peaceful longing for stillness be my demise. I long to be grounded. Planted my feet in the soil that my tears turned to mud. Lathered lavender, it smears suds. Tears streamed down cheeks to tug. Thought lonely would clear with love. Thought passion would get me out of the mud. Thought scrubbing would too. The more I learned about myself, the more I realized I don't know what to do. The more I learned about myself, the more I realized I don't know what to do. I cannot lie. July was blue. Berries and cherries couldn't sweeten the view. Few are able to stand in their truth. Much too scared of the dirt that's surrounding the roots. Grounding. Where rain boots stomp. To get familiar with the unfamiliar, to plant and grant myself with a chance to know and grow from lot to toe, covered in dirt and mud, to lavender suds and teal-filled tubs. I learned to love the dirtiest parts of me. There's no growth without dirt. See, I learned that from plant and tree. There's no growth without dirt. I learned that from plant and tree. I cannot lie. July was blue. Berries and cherries couldn't sweeten the view. Few are able to stand in their truth. Much too scared of the dirt that's surrounding the roof. When I think about the fact that it took me 20-something years to find myself in the woods, find myself rubbing my toes into the dirt, playing in the mud, feeling courage to climb trees. And I know my family had a good idea and a good plan, and they were just doing what they could in this country to keep us safe. But what it did is it made me 20-something, just finding myself in a place where I can acknowledge the beauty of the sunshine, where I can allow myself to feel the dripping of rain on my skin, where I could hug trees. Anybody like hugging trees? When I hug a tree, first of all, the trees I like are the fallen trees. They hold so much life, so much power, so much beauty, so much magic. And I'm just like, ooh, they was praying on your downfall, you fell, and you still living. That's so beautiful. It's something to be inspired for. And then I also like the trees that are like halfway cut down and just a stump. And I'm like, wow, how beautiful you are. Still rooted, still grounded, still so much like me. Even when they tried to cut me down, I'm here, standing tall. Even though I'm only 5'3", pretty short. But you know what I'm saying? It really, really, really changed my outlook on the world when I found safety in the woods, when I hugged my first tree. I met something that loved me unconditionally, and I was able to give it so much praise. Say, wow, it is because of you that I am here. And when I saw myself in a tree and I thanked the tree, I was also able to thank me. Be like, wow, look at how much you do for me. Look at how you give to me unconditionally, even though sometimes I'm not worthy and I'm ungrateful, but I'm learning to be different. Huddled palms and staggered tongues. Intention set to pair the pattern of our lungs. Brown bark bodies, beautiful bold trees, the space between mimics a tropical rainforest. Bodies of water, one moment, keep passing those phones out over there while we technical difficulties here. Go to the other side. Y'all having a good time?
Yeah.
All right, thank you, very good. I appreciate your patience and really want to thank you all for being here to honor my expression as I work to honor my own. I was sweating and crying before I came, but I'm so happy to be here. You know, they truly. Never said I did. In my heart. Sure. We don't got that. All right. I'll start from the top. Huddled palms and staggered tongues. Should I go to the podium? No, I don't want to like that. Can you guys hear me if I get rid of the mic?
Yeah.
Is that going to be okay for the video? Okay, we're going to get rid of it. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. All right. Go. Still going on. You know what I'm saying? There's a frequency here with me that has something to say. And huddled palms and staggered tongues. Intention set to pair the pattern of our lungs. Brown bark bodies, beautiful bold trees, the space between mimics the tropical rainforest. Bodies of water, hovering above the mundane. Emotion should be but cannot be contained. Have you ever watched the boom of butterfly? Witness the movement of magic and womb. This beauty may have blossomed too soon. With or without these vital moments, we could still be doomed. The rooms be sacred ground, be healing garden, be stealing sadness and gifting laughter and playful banter. This mattress must be floors full, where we shed bark and allow our pain to decompose. I suppose these moments may evoke some fear. That memories of past pain may meddle with the moments of joy, may toy with our hearts until our beats retreat in search of safety. But maybe we allow things to naturally occur. Let it be organic. Let it be organic. Let it be organic to love and grow and love some more. To love and grow and love some more, even if it hurts. Because we all know that growth can be painful, even if it's just for now. Just let it be love. Just let it be true. Just let it be love. Just let it be true. Just let it be love. Just let it be true. Me, I told you I'd be crying a lot. I cried every day for months in the woods, pretending I was a cloud. Tears shed to water the flowers, to moisten the soil. I convinced myself that something would grow from the rainfall of this dark nimbus. Didn't know the thing that would grow would be me. I've been out here hugging trees and kissing breeze. I didn't know that loving them unconditionally would help me love me. Doing better now. I know y'all heard me say it a lot. I'm doing better now. In the season, there's less precipitation. The world is squirrel paw on falling flakes, so I'm chilling. Working through the stress and agitation this winter weather taught me patience and how to pivot. There's no wonder the animals don't read books. The world teaches us everything when we stop, be still, and take a look. Doing better now. Cloud, proud, hanging with the snow plow, sipping nature's juice, knowing that I'm nature too, born in the image of the Most High. Grateful to be sky fly, doing better now. Doing better now. So thankful to be doing better now. Auspicious cloud, mountain minnow, because I'm just everything. Auspicious cloud, mountain minnow, scaling herself to get closer to God, to get closer to cloud. Pheromones loud, emotions even louder, pain persists, but I've never been more proud of me. I'm out here, still floundering, might just flounder forever. I'll keep swimming my way home through trauma and error, keep swimming my way home through trial, trauma and error, superpower neurodivergent. I'll find my own flow, even up mountain stove, crying, pouting, bitching about fairness. With this peak self-awareness, I'll be fish, cloud, current, mountain, growing every day, healing evermore, growing every day, healing evermore, growing every day, healing evermore. Recently, I shot a documentary with a writer who's also used to be a professor at Grand Valley State University, and her name is Christine Krieger Stevens, and I may be saying that wrong, so if you watch this, I love you still. But I shot a documentary for the oral history of Grand Rapids. This person went to GVSU back in 2018 and said, let's do this project on the oral history of Grand Rapids. And they said no, but she persisted, and it's so beautiful that she kept going because this year she was able to engage 25 different poets from 1970 to current day 2022. And so I don't know how this project will take shape, but one thing that I did while being interviewed and cross-interviewing other poets is cry a lot. You know what I'm saying? Our singers do. They picked me as poet laureate to be as emotional as possible for the next 3 years. So I hope that's okay with y'all. I cried so much before I came that I won't need to cry here. But during those interviews, I interviewed a guy who his reign of like spoken word and like reading poetry was the year I was born, which was 1987. And he started telling me about Gaia, which is like a vegan vegetarian restaurant that used to be over on Diamond Street, and that they used to have an open mic there. And he started talking about all these different venues and all the things that they used to do in 1987. But most importantly, when I learned that, and that really moved me. But what I liked the most about doing the interviews, talking to the other artists, all the poet laureates, including the person who started the Contemporary Writer Series, we were all engaged to share our stories and talk about the history of in our relationship with poetry. But why people write is always just so like, it's just like so moving to me. So when people were telling their stories about like, I started writing because my father left, and I started writing him letters, and I wanted him to like know what I was feeling, but I never planned on giving it to him. Or I started writing because I didn't like what I was seeing in society, and I wanted to be a voice. And when I think about why I started writing in second grade, and then why I picked up my pen again as an adult, they're very different, but there's a thread. And I wanted a different life back then, and now I know for sure the life that I want. So I use my poetry to honor myself to document the history of my heart and my experience. So you guys have heard a lot of poems about me today, and that's okay, because I've given a lot of myself to this community, to my family, to my friends, to my relationship, to my jobs. And so to dedicate a body of work to myself has been so important. But within those, I don't feel blue today, but it's so important for me to go back and read those poems about when I was blue so that I could say, wow, Erica, wow, Kyd, I'm so proud of you. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for your foresight and all that I didn't even know you knew when I go back and read my work. But I also like to affirm myself within those works, use them as a reminder for me to get closer to my highest and best self, for me to get closer to bliss, for me to get closer to honesty by telling the truth in my poems. And so typically when I pick up a pen, I breathe. We can do that together as a community if you don't mind. I breathe in through the nose and out through the mouth. I identify where my energy is sitting. And right now it's in my feet, and that means that I'm grounded. And so that's so good that I'm here and I'm grounded. But typically when I pick up my pen, I'm like, where are you right now? What are you feeling? Who are you? What's this emotion about? And when I'm able to tap into where the emotion lies within my body, I'm able to be more honest when I write stuff, when I say whatever it is that I need to say to me. See, I wrote these poems for you, but if you feel them, they're for you. But I've been writing for me a lot. In our introduction, she talked about how I wrote a poem in 2017 about called Broken Hunger, and I've written poems about food insecurity and gentrification and racism and being a woman, and being queer, and those are all great. But the poems that affirm me, the poems that push me to the next day, the poems that help me get out of bed are the ones that, that's why I write. I write for me, and that's okay. Sometimes when I can't get out of bed, I'll say this poem. Even if I don't feel it, I say this poem all the Shout out to the pH balanced water that we have here today. Even when I don't feel it, I sleep with my blinds and curtains all the way up, sun shining into my window, and I'm sad that day, in the mood or something. And then I see the sun and I go, rose up one morning shining brighter than a million suns. I was wishing on a star until I realized that I was one. Melanated and amazing, my time has come, no more wishing. Just elevated thoughts and fueled ambition, speaking into existence, persistence through hard work and dedication, peak my elevation. Not even the weight of the world can hold me down. Watch me rise like a star in the sky, watch me shine. And I won't be needing any candles for my cake this year or next year or the year after that. And I keep asking, who needs a genie when thoughts become things? And setting plans to accomplish your goals helps you to manifest dreams. So I tell myself every day, no more wishing. Wish for what? I've never been the type to need good luck. No more wishing. Wish for what? I've never been the type to need good luck. See, I wasn't feeling good before I said that poem, but how can you not feel good when you rose up one morning shining brighter than a million suns? So in my poem, I like affirmation. I like hyperbole. I like to exaggerate my greatness because I know that if I'm not there today, that I'll be there tomorrow. And if I'm not there tomorrow, then I'll be there after that. And because I write for me, I speak to me, I speak to you. And so if you don't rise up in the morning trying to brighter than a million suns, buy my book. Sometimes my room looks like this, and that's okay. After I say that poem, I stretch body to remove the cellular debris of the past. Affirm myself. Cast spells to let my innocence know that she's loved. Give praise to the Son of God above. For she reminds me of my power, for the warmth that flows from my core. More love, not less, more love, not less, more love, not less, less. to see this day despite the lonely only I can love me to hold. My cup was filled with holes. I'll use my art skills to paper mache those holes closed because this water flows. This water splashes. This water cleanses. This water gives way to quench. I was thirsty for some time. Now I smile and rejoice in the change, only interested in the exchange of heart and peace and love.
Love and peace.
Peace and love.
Love and peace.
All right, I'm coming in the audience to get these. And if you ain't get it yet, then, you know, this is it, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead and finish, and I'll grab, okay, got something. Thank you to everyone who brought it. We got a community poem, you know what I'm saying? How many times has this happened at the contemporary writing series? Or we just writing poems together and all being contemporary writers? Look at this mess I've made. Write a poem with me. That's what I asked. Self-love is a fruitful odyssey. Roam the home of your own heart. Every piece is a unique part. Bars. Look at that. Self-love is a fruitful odyssey. Roam the home of your own heart. Every piece is a unique part. The heart is a safe space in one's own body. It is a vessel of both beauty and pain. It is a place for vulnerability. A space it can be cold, home, or warm to me. But baby, let it be, let it be, let it be. And we will be free, be free, be free, roam. Journey tripping, just keep going. Concrete or too sweet, skipping, splitting streams of self-hatred to feed new hope. Coin in the fountain, feather in the nest, bees home to the hive. I used to be scared of the outdoors because they forced me to let go. Face myself and my anxiety for hours until we feel like one. And I realize pain and fear can bring me awe, poetry, that is, may invade your block. Oh, poetry may invade your block, okay. Whether you like it or not. 10, 10, 10, my spirit ignites home. My partner wrote Creole, Haitian Creole in here. And now you're gonna hear that I got accent insecurity. Can you say it? Muy recipe. Muy recipe. Open, awake, alive, no clock. A spring heart waits for life to rise. New blooms, new rooms, and raise again. Look for the sun in Michigan, writers, and sometimes you won't find it wandering among certain flowers. Look at that. Yeah, that was so good. Oh, I honor your expression and thank you for your contribution to that poem. And then we got this one. The first, somebody gave us some art too. This is what I need y'all to do for the Postcard Poetry Project. Shameless plug, please. Please ignite our library system. Go there. The people there work so hard to be present for us, to give us resources. Take your family there, engage them with art, engage them with poetry, let them know how important it is to speak. Let you leave here knowing how important your voice is, even if it's just for you. Not everybody's gonna come up here and, you know what I'm saying, make a mouthful of themselves on the stage, telling their truth, being vulnerable, but you can do it in your own notebook. What would you want to say to you tomorrow? What would you want to say to you in 5 years? What would you want to say to your grandkids if they wanted to know not the history of the world, but the history of their family? Do you have something to leave behind to them? And I have no technical background. Thanks to Kanye West, I'm a proud college dropout. I couldn't afford to go to school for long, but I followed my heart and look at me. I just taught a workshop here at Stuff. So I'd say, before I finish this poem and then we start our Q&A, that it's so important for you to honor the expression of your heart, your mind, your spirit, your body. If you're tired, take a nap. If you're hungry, eat. If you need to rest and be still in the bed, do so without judging yourself. Because we all know, our body knows what we need, our mind knows what we need, and it'll tell you when you take the time to write it down, when you take the time to speak, you take the time to be present with yourself. And so as the poet laureate, but mostly as a resident of the city of Grand Rapids, a city that has left my community far, far behind, I'm still proud to be from here. I'm still proud to be present in a community that honors me, that honors this art form. And with that, I set the intention for us to all honor ourselves on a more intentional level. The first two lines of this poem came from my partner in poetry. I texted him right before I started when I realized that we had too many people in the room for one clipboard. I said, send me 2 lines of poetry, please, right now. And he goes, what? And I'm like, please, send me 2 lines of poetry. He's like, what? And I'm like, I'm gonna give you credit. I'm at Aquinas. I'm gonna let them know that you gave me these 2 lines and we're gonna write a community poem with whatever you say. And he sent me something, I said, sorry, that's a little ableist, I'm not gonna say that one. You should try again. And I don't think he was intentionally being ableist, but it was. So he gave me the first 2 lines. I'll seek light. I'll seek life in the light that has chosen me. I'll speak life to the light. That's how it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be something, but something that floats, lifts, and lights. Words are special to speak about who I am. I am who I am. Lift me up to the light to be who I am. I am chosen for what? How will I know? My heart will share, will care, whether the weather is cold or whether the weather is hot. Will weather the weather, whatever the weather. Wait a second. I am chosen for what? How will I know? My heart will share, will care. Whether the weather is cold or whether the weather is hot, will weather the weather, whatever the weather, whether we live it or not. We'll tie knots, knot our fingers together and pray for better. Pray for the sea and the sun and the soul, for the spring, wind, and better times. And if better times don't come, I'll wait in the winter. Through I think it says doldrums. I don't think that's a word. I don't know what it says, but through something of spring, for now and then, my light is enough. And when summer comes, I'll bash in solid light, oh, soulless light, to lift my soul till my skin peels and soul stings my eyes, and I long for the hunkering down, slowing down in cooler months, the quiet months, the ones where the light comes from what was given to me, for me, to me, for me, by me. The moments my brain is so loud, drowns me, but it's still me. And the still me is given to me from nature. And from nature, I found me and my energy. Peace and love.
Love and peace.
Peace and love.
Love and peace.
Peace and love.
Love and peace.
Give it up for yourselves for those 2 poems. Before we start the Q&A, that I set intention for tonight to be moving, and I don't know if you were moved, but I have. I am moved in the space to be certain that I can come into any room and be myself, and have people honor my expression, and I'm just so grateful for that. I don't know where these words will take me, but they've taken me so far, and I'm so glad that they brought me here. Thank you.
If you have a question for Kyd, please raise your hand and we'll bring the mic around to you.
I'm cool enough for questions. You know what I'm saying? Don't be scared.
Okay. I love your outfit, by the way. But my question is, what do you do when you start to write and you are starting to tell yourself, this is gonna be bad. Why am I writing this? Like, how do you break out of that and say kind of like what you were made to say?
You should write that part. You should literally say, why am I writing this? Right onto the page. Because when your eyes see it, it's gonna be like, why not? Why would I not be writing this? Why would I not? Then what is bad? I'm such a person that's like trying to find neutrality, right? And so if we don't, saying that something is bad is a judgment, and judgment is the opposite of love. And since I am a beacon of peace and love, I'm here to just relish in neutrality. So I set intentions for you to find a way to say that there is no bad or wrong or good or anything, you know, everything is neutral. And I feel like I treat my pleasure like I treat my pain, I treat my joy like I treat my sadness, and the acceptance that it's all fleeting. And so when you take that space of neutrality and you say, there is no wrong way for me to express myself. And is it honest? Is it true? That's it. Thank you.
Can you describe your writing process? I think, a lot of writers write on paper, they read it, they revise it, they read it. But I suspect a lot of writers aren't thinking about performing it. And so I'm thinking that might be different for you, and I'd like to hear your process.
I'm obsessed to move to the beat of my own drum. You know what I'm saying? So, when it comes down to my poetry, there's a lot of repetition, there's a lot of grind. I started writing as a young person, then I found myself bogged down by the weight of life. And then I was a manager for a title company back in 2014. And then I got the offer to be laid off. And I said, well, is there a severance package? And they said yes. And that gave me space to for once, just have a moment to find myself back in the notebook. And sometimes I write on the page, sometimes I write on my phone, but really where I started writing is I was delivering pizza during that break for Lake Drive Domino's. And I was in the car and thinking, and I started thinking out loud. And then when I started thinking out loud, I started thinking in rhymes and refrains. So then therefore, I had this repetition, and I just started adding a few lines at a time. I'm so used to committing all of my poems to memory, but Apple does not give you more gigabytes for your brain. So I have to read from the page now. But my process is very simple. Is it honest? Is it true? And when I'm saying it, cadence, rhythm does help me with that desire of memorization. And so my process is like a lot of writers, to write and then chisel down enough to be able to create a flow, to be able to create a cadence and a frequency that sometimes people can't catch on to. But it keeps me in line when there's some kind of cadence or flow. So yeah, my process is use a lot of rhyme. Use a lot of rhyme. Anyone else? We got another hand over here, and you in the back.
What's up?
Hey.
Hey. So who have you been reading? What works of literature have kind of you've been resonating with as of late?
Yeah. Currently, me and my partner are reading All About Love by Bell Hooks. And before we started reading that, we were reading The Mastery of Love and Four Agreements. And so I'm using that text and those types of books to find myself closer to home. I'm always on a homecoming journey, trying to get close to me, right? And so I'm finding myself reading these books that allow me to honor myself and take a holistic approach to the care that I give to myself. And with that, it gives me the ability to take the voices of my caregivers out of my brain and set them aside, because some of the stuff that I learned from them is no longer serving. It helps, those types of books gives me the opportunity to say, this is how I want to love myself through this poem. And so, yeah, Bellhook's All About Love is what's on the menu currently. But yeah, reading nonfiction. I like to read poetry sometimes. I'm reading the poetry of the students that I teach. Working with the diatribe, we go into schools all over West Michigan, and we also have content that goes out all over the country for students to use when we talk about mental health, we talk about community, we talk about, just like how poetry can empower. And today I got to hear 90 fifth graders get on a stage before their peers and their family and say some of the most profound, the most honest and compelling things that I have ever heard. And so fifth grade is my favorite grade to teach, and that is the poetry that I'm interested in reading right now. There was somebody, got the mic, and then there's someone else.
So I moved back to Grand Rapids essentially during the middle of the pandemic. From my college, my undergrad program, where I kind of already fostered like a good community of poets. And something I've kind of struggled with since moving back is finding places to get community, but also just to perform. What groups would you recommend from around the area?
Absolutely. I think that, first of all, Grand Rapids, before pandemic, had a just bubbling poetry scene. Shows on Monday nights, Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, Thursday nights, even a rotating Friday night show. But as we all know, that the coronavirus and all this has really shut so much of that down, and like creating space for us to gather is just like not as desirable for many of us. And also a lot of us found that we were kind of running ourselves ragged trying to build community in that way. I used to go to the Drunken Tour at Stella's that's hosted by a lot of my poetic peers. I myself hosted a show for 3 years called Creston Vibes over at Creston Brewery. There was all access mic on Wednesday nights at Lion Buzz Cafe. And since all those shows are no longer, but Creston Vibes is coming back. You know what I'm saying? We're supposed to have a return date of April 10th. But I just been really, really busy. So Creston Vibes, you can look that up after you look me up on Instagram. That kid said it. You can look up Creston Vibes on Facebook and just keep an eye out for that. Creston Vibes was a weekly open mic series and will continue to be a weekly open mic series once we get all of our ducks in a row. But it was an open mic series that a lot of the shows that we went through, poets were just polished and ready to come there and share their best work. But as a beacon of peace and love, as a person that feels like expression should be honored no matter what stage you are in your writing journey, me and my co-host, Brianne Ross, we created a show that allowed people to just have community dialogue. To not only come there with your songs and your comedy and your poetry, but to come there with yourself and your story. And so we would have shows called, we changed the session theme every time. And I remember we had this show called Nostalgia Sessions. And we all just talked about things that were nostalgic to us. And it took out it pulled away the fear of sharing, because everyone was just there to say whatever they were feeling, not to have like polished poetry. And when we got people up in front of the mic, willing and anxious to share about how they hated the AOL dial-up, or how the smell of glue reminded them of elementary school. They're just talking about regular things that we can all relate to. It really put us in a position to foster new poets and new voices of people that were finally able to live outside of the fear. So be on the lookout for Creston Vibes. There's also just a lot of online communities where people are doing virtual shows, which is really beautiful because I think poetry should be accessible. And, as people are trying to find community and not able to always leave their homes or to get around as easily, those virtual spaces are around and are very fruitful. So follow me online, ask me that question again, and I'll get you some direct specific details, okay?
Do you ever read classical poetry? And if so, who might your favorites be?
Yes. Well, I found myself last night laughing about Shakespeare. This is not even, I'll answer your question. But I was laughing about Shakespeare. Me and my partner were in the car and we're looking for a new place to live. And we were driving around and talking about like the side room balconies. And she goes, the Juliet balcony. And I'm like, the Juliet balcony? Like Romeo the Juliet balcony? And I'm like, they found their way to romanticize giving you a black side balcony outside of your apartment. And just, as a poet, I thought that was pretty funny. But I'm blanking on some of my favorite poets, but Saul Williams, that's not a classical poet, but it's classic to me. She was writing poems before I was born. But I really like Emily Dickinson, and I connect with Emily Dickinson's work because she connects herself to nature and other elements. But really, I like the poets of the now, fifth graders. You know what I'm saying? And so as much as I love to go back and read old poems and to find out the rhythm and the form and to use those techniques, I'm a poet that writes from the heart and I write from a place of passion. And so, at some point I'll scurry along and read some more classical poets, but the voices are today are working with me.
You said, as long as it's honest and as long as it's true, wait.
You need to wait for the mic.
You mentioned in your writing, or anybody's writing, I guess, it's fine as long as it's honest, and as long as it's true, and you don't worry about it. One of the things I've heard from teachers all my life, and I have to say that mostly, I think it's always been a prose writing teacher, is embroider, and it's fine. I was wondering if you had a reaction to that.
Embroider like embellish?
Yes, embroider or even make up, as long as it.
Is it true to you? Is the embroidery or in the embellishing or in the building, is it true to you? Like, everything that I write in my poem, it hasn't happened yet. I don't have a private jet, but I have a poem about it because, I'm trying to speak life to it. And so, when you think about embroidery, I already like that. But I say my truth and your truth are different. And so, embroidery, as long as it feels good in the body and sit well with you, then I would call that truth. Thank you for wearing your Kyd Kane merch to the show. Is that your kid's first poetry show?
Yeah.
Hey, let's give it up for that.
I'm a huge fan of music when I write. Do you have a soundtrack to when you write your poetry or any favorites you like to listen to in the background?
I like to listen to my partner too. Oh no, but I also really, I try not to, when I'm writing, listen to words or lyrics because I don't want to capture the cadence or the sound of anyone else. But I'm a big fan of nature sounds by Neurobeats. My partner also put me up on listening to like the recordings of coffee shops and cafes, and just like the clinking and the clanking of things happening in the background. But mostly, the dinging of the refrigerator, the slow calm flows of the fridge. Any other questions? Please follow me on Instagram @KydKane to get more information about my book, Feel, and poetic self-portrait that I keep putting out. I was actually supposed to do a book signing here tonight for that self-published release, but I got a publishing offer, and I was really geeked and excited about that until I read the fine print, and now we got to do some more, we got to do some more searching, because I feel like this body of work deserves a platform larger than what I have as an individual. And I know it's going to take me all over the world, and I know it's going to touch people all over the world. So tap in. I'm always poetic, you know what I'm saying? I like to speak in poems. And I also just like to share myself and be honest and true. So follow me. All right, thank you all.
Kyd, thank you so much and thank you everyone this evening for sharing the space with us. If you have time, hop over to the Laureate room for some snacks, and we'll be floating around and chatting with you all. Thanks. Thank you so much.